basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skitty, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
G'day everyone and welcome to our weekly Sell High show on Insight NBA. I am your host, NBA G Wiz. You can find me here. And this is live_my_fantasy_. How you doing, Copper?
Yeah, I've used all my underscores up for the rest of my life, so I'm doing great. Positivity, ready to go. I'm loving basketball at the moment. It was weird today having a no game day. I was like a little bit like a man without his fix, like very twitchy.
I was wondering how you
my lunch break, and I was like, "What do people do at this time?" So
do I have to make a conversation with colleagues? Is that what I do instead of watching recaps? I'm like, nope, got to avoid that end of the world. But I will do it now. Look, as this is our buy sell show. It's our sell high. It's our guys that we think is sell high. Again, the guy too. Just obviously Jordan Poole, a fan favorite of ours, because obviously I'm all into the Poole party. Still cupboard away, still defensive player of the year potential. And this bloke, it's ridiculous. Obviously the sell high. We've got a different list to look at. We've got a bunch of guys today. But we did have a mailbag question regarding IR spots this week, and a guy's in one of our listeners. Shout out to Wenya. He said, "Matty, I'm in a league with no IR spot. How do I deal with that? Like, what is my best strategy here?" So just a quick question to you, Malley. I know that we play in ball page leagues. It's a 20-man comp, 10-man rosters, and we don't have any IR or IL spots in these competitions. And it makes it tough. Where do you stand with this, mate?
Yeah, I don't know if this necessarily answers the question, but my thoughts around it are generally pretty worrisome. I don't like the idea of having no IR spots. I mean, I have in the league, the ball league, I have DeJounte Murray. So he got one game, and now he's been out, and he's out for the next few weeks. And I think it just deters people from playing the game and enjoying it. And the situation you probably find yourself in is, I hold them and I lose games. I hold them, and not only am I getting a guy who's getting me zeros, but they're holding a spot that I could be streaming. Or the third option, which is probably the worst one for the entire league, not just you, is you drop your great top 1, top 2, top 3 player, and someone else who's absolutely cruising with no injuries goes, "Great, I'm going to get rid of my Caruso and I'm going to pick up your DeJounte Murray, and nobody can stop me now."
And if there was ever just drop him and put him on the waiver wire guy, the steals are nice, but Alex Caruso was one of those really disappointing guys. We did the disappointment all-stars last night, Kingy and I, like our first team all-star, disappointments to begin the season, and Caruso made his list, for example, has just been underwhelming. I'm in the same page in the ball league. I went over this today in a thing for them. In my team, I've got Desmond Bane, who's now out, Emmanuel Quickly, who I got 14 minutes out of to begin the season, and some bloke just is about to return this week, maybe later in the week. Some bloke decides to be like, "Look, I'll send him a trade offer now." And that's not how you play it. Like, why am I going to hold him for the next 2.5 weeks of the season only to let him go when he's questionable or doubtful? It makes no sense. Don't send me Miles Bridges for this guy. Don't do that. That's not good trade form. But I've also got Trey Murphy, who's nearing a return, and Trey Murphy will come up in a conversation a little bit later, and Nick Richards now, who's the guy you picked up because the guy who you wanted to pick up, Mark Williams, was injured. So now I'm looking at 4 blokes on my bench, and I'm like, what do I do? But personal fouls I can win, 3-point percentage I can win, free throw percentage I can win. I've just got to move over that 11 cat to get the 6, and I'm not going to do it with points. But this is where you can be really crafty and focus on things like steals and assists. So I think it's all about your format, Malley.
And I think you've answered the question in one way there, is that you've got to then work to your strengths. I guess the other thing that you could do to answer the listener's question is you could probably make sure that if it's only one guy, you keep a spot available that you're churning out. You use all 6 of your pickups, or whatever your 5 pickups, 4 pickups that you get in the week, to really maximize that. Like, unfortunately, you've got to work harder in other areas. The other thing is, especially this part of the season where we're 2 and a bit rounds in now, we've got to realize that it's a marathon. Like, don't drop everything now to try and win those early games, those early matchups. I mean, that's pretty rich coming from me because I'm king of panics. But as a word from the wise is that you probably just need to ride it out because you're not going to be the only team who has a big injury. And I think the worst thing that can happen is, as I said, you drop your DeJounte Murray, and the guy who's cruising, who's won the first 2 weeks, hasn't had his injury yet, picks him up, gets rid of his worst guy, and then basically the competition's a rider for everyone. I just don't like. I understand that fantasy basketball is a game of luck in many ways, but I like any kind of ruling that the GM, your league manager, can put in place that minimizes the luck element.
Yep. I think 2 IR or AL plus positions is more than enough to get through. And look, I'm in a position now where I drafted Trey Murphy and Isaiah Hartenstein in one. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to free up a spot to keep on streaming every time. So that's the best way to handle it. Let's get to it. Let's get to our thanks for that, Malley. And thanks to you, Wenya. Let's get down to time to sell. This is the guys sell how high.
Sell, sell, sell. Sell, sell, sell.
Do you like that? I brought back the audio cue, Malley.
Yeah, it's a throwback.
It's a bit of a throwback. I was just like, why did I push that last week? And why didn't I push in on this bloke? Because currently, Nikola Vucevic, let's play the game. Like, yes, yes, nah, is the 7th ranked player on Basketball Monster and the 8th ranked player on #basketball in fantasy basketball. His ADP stock was well down on draft day from usual. It was all like, oh, they're tanking. And they might as well be. But this bloke is having an absolutely humdinger of a season so far, mate.
Yeah, and I think he's obviously surprised many of us, and that's probably why he's ended up on this list, is that everybody, he's on this list because we and many others probably think that he can't continue to do this. And the point of this show is to find the person who doesn't think that way. He has been a relatively consistent player over at least the years that I've been playing fantasy, probably the last 7 years. Like he's really done as advertised, and as he's got older, he's really evolved his game. He's never been a big defensive guy, but he can get points and he can get rebounds aplenty. What I worry about and why I think probably it's a sell high and why the window stays open for a limited time is, one, he's playing beyond his means is probably the first box that we need to tick. The second box we need to tick is, in the minutes that Jalen Smith has been playing, which has been about all 15 of them a night, he's looked so good. Like, at least from a fantasy perspective, especially, like he's putting up crazy stats. And it just takes a minor injury where he goes down and they go, great, let's just play Smith and see what happens, and then let Vooch kind of chill out and miss minutes and miss games. Trade potential, because I don't think they're going to get too far in the season. I'm worried now with the Levine injury, not that it's a big one, but he's going to miss some games, and I don't think they can win games without him. He's been such a big player and influence on that team's winning. So, yes, I think whenever you look at a guy in the sell high list, you think, are they going to be able to continue to do what they're doing? And I think for many reasons, the answer is no.
100%. And when you look at his stats as well, they are absolutely incredible. Like, the man's field goal percentage is almost 550 right now. He is at 950 from the line on 3.5 attempts almost, which is elite. What we like to see here is the 2.3 threes a game. Like, this hasn't been around in Vooch's game for a little bit. This is a nice return to form when we saw that Orlando Vooch, and when he first moved to Chicago and did stretch the floor, he loved that top of the key three. It was almost his pitch back. It's the one that Domantas Sabonis wishes that he could hit. That was Vooch's bread and butter for a very long game. That pick and roll, that long game.
You know, you've got the numbers there. How many threes is he taking, and what clip is he making them at the moment?
Oh,
so I'd be interested to see.
I didn't have the 3-point percentage. Yep.
Yeah, it's probably. Well, while you're finding that, I think maybe one of the reasons that he's probably a great sell high candidate as well, besides the fact that we don't probably think that he's going to be able to continue doing this, is because the things that he is doing aren't outrageous. When you look at someone like Poeltl, nobody, I think, really expects him to go. I mean, he's done it for what, 6, 7 games now, which is
Eight
more than we
games.
thought.
8 games.
8 games, but the steals and blocks surely aren't. This isn't in his wheelhouse, and that's
No.
going to fall away. But I think you can still make a very convincing point that Vooch will continue to do what he does, and anyone who's on the fence already, I think it wouldn't be too hard to push them one way.
I think it would be really interesting to see what people want for him as well. Because at the end of the day, this is a guy who's doing. I haven't got up his 3-point percentage, to be honest. I can't find him off the top with one hand because I'm still bloody fractured on my left wrist. But I can tell you it's incredible. You do that. You do that one. You've got 2 hands you can use, and I can drive the bloody show. But when you look at the 22 points a game, the 11 rebounds, the 1 steal, the almost 4 assists a game, that's really impressive for me. And I just don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah, and you're right. I think the other thing you touched on there, which has provoked a thought in my empty void of a mind, is that if you're going to try and trade him for someone like, I don't know why you do this, but a Duran, let's say you just for some reason you just like the direction that they're going. It's kind of like, what's the point? You're getting a guy who does roughly the same things. I think they both have inherent risks. I can understand if you wanted to trade him for a guy that is producing great defensive stats. So I know it wouldn't be a 1-for-1 trade. You never get this away. But if you had someone like a Dyson Daniels, if you had a Dyson Daniels, who again isn't a 1-for-1 swap, but you could really sell a narrative like, I got a guy, mate, and he can put up those defensive numbers. Your team is a little lacking on that, but I can see and just crunch the numbers. It's so easy and go, look, I've looked at your numbers, and a week ago, you would have been top 3 had you had a guy who might have got you a couple more steals and a couple more blocks. So I'm going to help you out here because, look, mate, to be fair, my team's never going to win blocks and steals. So I think that's the way you get your trades across. You never want to be like, oh, I'm ripping you off. You want to go, look, we're gonna have a symbiotic trade here. We're going to look after
Symbiotic trade. I love that.
You're going to push up and it's not going to affect me negatively. I'm going to push up and it's not going to affect you negatively. We're both going to be winners out of this. Let's do a deal. And I think that's really how you get these across the line, where nobody feels cheated. And you can use the numbers to back you up. Say, out of the 12 of us, mate, you were so close. 3 more blocks, which I can get you here, and you would have been top 3 for the week,
100. And I love 3-for-2 trades as well. I love throwing a couple guys in there, getting back, and then opening up a waiver spot in that one. And I love that. By the way, his 3-point percentage is 48.5% right now. And he is a career 34% bloke. So that 15% bump for him is absolutely not sustainable, in my opinion. Another big man in the Eastern Conference is also doing more than as advertised. It's Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, I think this is an absolutely prime sell high candidate. And this is on the back of his massive 19 rebound game. So this is where a guy performs. We go into like a day off. He's really high still up in rankings. He is, I believe, 10 at, he is 10 over at Basketball Monster, but he doesn't even crack the top. He doesn't even crack the top 10 at hashtag basketball. He's 17 there. So this is where there's a discrepancy already as well for these. And a lot of the top 12, the first round guys, are pretty consolidated. But Cat's one that's a little bit debatable here. He's been excellent from the line. He's been excellent from the field. The threes are down for him, only 1.8 threes. We know he can get you 2.5. 21 points, the 12 rebounds is elite. There's no defensive numbers there of which to speak. But with the ball out of his hand as much, he's down to 1.5 turnovers, Malley. And I think this is really good, where you could possibly get another first round guy back or package him with someone for, dare I say, a Jokic or a Wemby. I think you can make a blockbuster trade using Cat with how well he's flying right now to completely shift the dynamic in your fantasy league. Because right now he is around about a first round player. And if you throw in a decent 80-ish player in alongside that, it's got to make a manager who might be really top heavy really start to question. Like, you could get away with someone here that you could get a Shea, maybe a Tatum. Like, this is like a top 5 or 6 player in the season you could get away with, some guy who might settle into about 20.
And what I like about trading for these first round guys is a lot of the time the person hasn't picked them up because they think they're a league winner, because they think they're they're someone that they're really passionate about. And they love watching on the court, and so they're happy to have them on their fantasy team and watch their numbers roll through. They picked them up because it just made sense. So I traded in my league. I traded and got Halliburton. What did I give away from it? I gave away Curry and Giddy for him. So, a guy who's not far below him, maybe, at least on ADPs, it was probably the 5th or 6th, 7th guy traded for the 11th, 12th guy. And I put a little sweetener in there to do it because the guy who I traded off, he's like, I didn't really want Hallie, but he made sense of that pick. So I think I've got a good trade. He's happy because he's got a great piece and a decent enough piece back. And I think you touched on a nice point there too, is that a lot of people sometimes too will like to get a 2-for-1 where they take the 2 and get rid of one of their bigger guys, because there's a lot of you sweat a lot holding one of these guys, because if your Jokic goes down, you're in big trouble. But if your Vooch goes down, but you still got a Tobias Harris in the deal as well, or someone of the likes, obviously that probably wouldn't fly. But if you got one of those guys, maybe let's say you swap Vooch and Jalen Johnson or something like that, and you got him. You still, if one of those two guys goes down, you're still going to be trucking away. You're still going to be putting up stats. And if Jokic goes down, then you're custard. That's really going to hurt you.
Oh, I would agree. And so this is where I'm looking to package those guys together and get someone in return. Another guy who is excelling his ADP right now, who looking up at Fantasy Pros, who have the overall rankings between Yahoo and ESPN. By the way, Karl-Anthony Towns' average draft position was around 21-20. So you invested quite heavily in the bloke. Different again to Vooch. When we get down to where Vucevic was at the end of the day, he was actually 57 on Yahoo and 39 on ESPN. So his overall ADP between them was 48. So this is where you're getting, it's also your day of investment that you're trying to recoup a little bit. The next guy on our list was 55th in Yahoo. I picked him up in one league. I love owning him right now. It is DeMar DeRozan. He has been sensational for the Sacramento Kings. Sensational Sacramento. Say it slowly, Malley. Slower.
Like you had lockjaw then, mate.
Slower. This guy is absolutely flying. He is 14 at #basketball, and he has cracked the top 10 over on Basketball Monster as well. A spectacular start for his run over in Sacramento, mate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the ranking is buoyed by those great steals. I think I looked the other day and he was second or something like that at 2 and a bit. He's really got them rolling in, and I don't think that would be the number one red alert that's going off in the back of my mind that this is the time to sell him, because I think field goal percentage, he'll do that. Getting to the line, he'll do that. Assists are down. That's probably a little bit of a worry.
I don't see the 529. I don't see it 529. We're talking
not that much.
I think if we can get away with 490 at the end of the day, we'll be laughing with DeRozan. But to come in at 529 currently, it's just incredibly high. And the 2 steals a game, he hasn't flashed this much defense since very early Toronto Raptors. I'm trying to make the Olympic team, DeMar DeRozan.
He's also not a young man. And they're also playing him 35, 36, 37 minutes a night. And that always worries me too. He could go from
38. He's at 38 minutes a night. He's at 38 minutes a night.
38. Jesus Christ. I thought I was going over the top with 35 or 36.
No, in fact, he is playing the third most minutes in the NBA. You wanted to know an early season answer to one of your questions, Malley? Who breaks the 40 minutes a night club? There's only one player currently because he needs to, and it's Tyrese Maxey. Followed quickly by, can you believe it, the old man squad of Kevin Durant and DeMar DeRozan. That's not a recipe. That's not a recipe for success.
The only other thing that makes me feel like now's a good time to sell is they've got 2 other superstars on this team, and they're also not winning easily. The ones they have won haven't been great, and they've also lost. And, there could be at any point be a change where they're like, all right, let's go back to Fox being the real big focus here. Let's make sure that we get us the bonus back in on the action and see if that wins us games. And if that takes probably not minutes, I'd say they're going to keep him out there. But if that takes usage away from him, then he's not going to get those points up into the early 20s that he's been getting. I don't know about the steals. I also don't think that anyone can average anywhere close to 2 steals when they're playing 38 minutes. Like, you're going to just turn to jelly.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, he has been reasonably healthy for a long time, but he does get a bit of a break here and there off, but hasn't been, but for this kind of sustainability for DeMar DeRozan, I don't anticipate the fact that he is performing back at a second round value right now is something that we have to examine and just strike while the iron is absolutely hot. I do have a bit of a curveball one for you because we're moving away from the smalls into the small position. There is a bit of a dilemma brewing in New Orleans. And that dilemma is, as you said earlier, DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is still out for a few more weeks. I probably anticipate another 3 or 4. I have a wrist injury. I know that's not a quick recovery. If you don't take it too easy, there's other cracks that can appear. It's not an easy one just to come back from. Fair enough. Trey Murphy is about to come back into the lineup in the next week. That's a consideration. So Trey Murphy is probably coming back this week, early next week. CJ McCollum is the guy that I want to bring to your attention, because this is a really interesting time to sell high on him. And you might say, Matt, that's a bit of a stupid thing because he is out injured right now. He's got an adductor strain. He could probably be out for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, he could be out for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, Malley, why I want to say sell high is I think we need to hold him. We need to stash him in IR. And you need to be a forward-thinking manager to the second that he comes back healthy, the second that he plays a couple of games and they're really, really good, you need to sell him immediately before DeJounte comes back because the window is really, really small. Or at least push him into a package just before he returns, mate, because that window, the longer that he is out, the closer that window for DeJounte returning comes. And the diminished return that you're going to get is just going to be exponential because currently he is the 19th best player. If he was healthy, he made the list no matter what. But he's someone you need to stash, wait for him to play a couple games and move him on really quickly.
I like that you said that probably in any other circumstance, if someone was out with an injury, trying to sell them would be wild. But the thing he's kind of frozen in time at the moment. He's like in his little, he's the Neanderthal sitting there with his great stat line and his high ranking. And you could make that push that thought that I'm giving you, basically, I'm giving away this top 30 player to you as a little gift, as a sweetener on this deal. Like, you're getting 2 top 50 players right now, and he's going to come back, and we've seen what he can do, and we knew what he did last year.
Take him in the trade, stash him into your IR spot straight away. Or how's this?
Yeah,
let's talk about, you've got one. Use it up, man. Do that. Or, hey, look, let's wait until he comes back, make a deal. He's out for a little bit longer. How about I hold him until he's back? And maybe we hear that he's coming back later this week and he's practicing again, so you know that he's good and there's no setbacks. And then we make a deal. Just grease the wheels early because he is not going to be in the top 20 for much longer for this season. You won't expect.
And I think I'm always happy to roll the dice on a player like this that you probably, if you were lucky like me and picked him up at the 130s, then what do you got to lose? He's playing well, but at the end of the day, it doesn't work out like you wanted it to. You're like, I don't know. Just the further away you got these guys and the greater distance they've been able to cover, I feel like your inhibitions kind of weaken a little bit. You're like, 130. Yeah. I basically picked him up for waiver wire price. If this blows back in my face, this is a funny statement. The one good thing about a trade blowing up in your face and making you look like a mug is it makes the next trade that you have in your league easier. Because people are like, look at this doofus. Remember when he traded that? It's almost it's a wild strategy, but almost like selling yourself short in a trade. So people are like, oh, okay, this dude's a sucker. And going in, it's a bold strategy. What?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, but I think that would be amazing if you can do a shite trade in your league just for the ability to go, oh, this guy, he doesn't know what's up. And then you can just be the double agent in there. I don't know. Maybe I like to trade too much. So obviously I'm spiraling here. So
Well, then let's move on to our next guy before you spiral out. This is a guy who currently is ranked at the 37th best player. Now, I had high hopes for Norm Powell. I've swooped in and taken him in a lot of leagues. And there's two reasons here. Now, I actually don't think he's a sell high. I actually think that he might be a hold. But if you can get a piece back that's a top 40 piece, you do it. But this is now, what else have the Clippers got? They've got Kawhi coming back. At what capacity? No back-to-backs. He's playing incredibly well. Like, let's be honest here. I think it might be a case of like you just hold and you ride the wild fantasy ride that is Norm Powell, 34th on Basketball Monster right now, 37 on #basketball. He is just an incredible option for the Clippers. Like, the bloke is playing. Like, do you sell high? Because I've been asked about him. People are inquiring about him. Like, is Powell open? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, do you want to sell high? Like, I'm not going to give. I'm like, dude, like, you're going to try and tell me that Kawhi is going to take everything when he's back? Harden's not the picture of fitness anyway. This bloke is the offensive weapon for the Clippers right now. Zubac has faded from his hot couple game start. Like, this is the Clippers centerpiece, even more than Harden right now. It's crazy.
And I think, like you're right. If the trade doesn't work and you get to keep him, and that's your worst case scenario, so what? Like, you picked him up late. He's got you a bunch of great games. He's had a few games where he's done more than just scoring. So you've got to be happy with any game that Norm Powell is not just like firing away, where he's getting a few rebounds, assists, and a defensive stat or two. I think maybe if you thought there was value in moving him, you wait until the Clippers say any sort of negative or ambiguous note about Kawhi Leonard, and you let that news settle in for 6 hours, let it marinate. You're just on a low heat, and then and once the meat's nice and tender, that's where you go, hey, actually thinking of moving on this guy and throw him out for a trade, because people are just waiting for that bad Kawhi news. Even if it's a 1 week, we'll think about it in another week. That's where you throw that name out there and see who takes a little nibble.
And why I want to put this guy to you is because I know that I'm an owner of him in 4 leagues, and I've got invested in Norm Powell stock. When I saw his preseason, I was like, wait a minute, no one's drafting this bloke still. All right, fine. If I have to, he was like on my radar as a late round points guy. Jakob Poeltl was the guy that we both like, because I was looking even at a trade between us today. I've got Norm Powell in a league. He's outperforming bloody Anthony Edwards by spades. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen for long, but with Anthony Edwards, like, you're an owner. He's atrocious free throw percentage right now with how often he gets to the line. That expression on your face straight away is like, yes, Matthew,
it's hurtful.
It's really, really hurtful. But it might be a thing because he's never been an exceptional free throw shooter, Anthony Edwards. The threes are sexy. But again, we know the points and threes are the sexy goal at the party. But then what else is away from that? There's a guy on your list who I was thinking out with the trade, and it was Jakob Poeltl. And I put him in the same wheelhouse here as Walker Kessler. We just did an ADP battle with Kingy last night. These guys are basically the exact same rank right now. Jakob Poeltl is 44. Walker Kessler is 43. Of these two ADP battle-wise, because we're splitting this in two, it's an ADP battle-wise, which one would you take? Because I think it's Kessler, and I think therefore that means that Poeltl is a sell high at 44, because I think Kessler can stay around this to 50, but I do not see Poeltl sustaining this, especially with quickly to come back, the team to be reintegrated, and Barnes has been out.
Sorry, I was just having an identity crisis while you were leading into that, because you flicked those two guys up and I'm thinking, look at these big, white, ugly mugs. And then you quickly flash back to me and I'm like, oh, damn it, I look the exact same as those two.
You do.
Like,
look.
I'm like, who's that? Who's this pale, red hair, jangly mother effer? And then you just put back to me and I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, I think you've unlocked a deep insecurity in me. But maybe it's time to sell high on Malley, because obviously his own personal stocks are very low. I agree. I think that if you can, Poeltl's obviously taking massive advantage of being the only decent player on this team at the moment. He's scoring, he's getting steals, He's obviously getting a squillion rebounds. I see on the NBA flash ups the other day, he's top 5 in overall rebounds and in rebounds per game. I think out of this list so far, he is the biggest sell high candidate, because we also know who he was last season, where they limited his minutes, where he was kind of an afterthought while they really worked out who they were with their, with their Scotty Barnes, with their Emmanuel Quickley, with their insert guy from New York here that I've forgotten his name.
RJ Barrett.
Thank you very much, RJ Barrett. Don't hate me. So I think, things aren't going. This is peak performance. And I think the rest of the guys on this list, you're like, I could see another extra level higher than this, like if they just did this or they just did this, maybe the sell high would be a letdown, because you go, damn it, they increased this, or they got that extra steal a game and now they're really flying. Where what is Siakam doing right now where you're like, I think he could do a little bit more of this? Hit threes?
Maybe.
Might be it. Yeah, honestly.
Maybe he makes one this season. Who's going to hit? We should take the over-unders. Who's going to take more 3 attempts this year? Is it Ben Simmons or Jakob Poeltl? It's probably going to be Poeltl, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd say Poeltl will hoik one up. But yeah, I'd say Kessler's a little bit more safe. The only person who is really going to rock the boat, the Kessler boat, was John Collins, and it's been very clear over these last few games, except for the last one. There he is. Speak of the devil, that he's probably not going to be a massive hindrance to Kessler. But I think there he is, because his last game was big.
And he plays really well beside him, and he plays really well in place of Lauri Markkanen. And if they do roll that lineup of Keontae, Sexton, Collins, Lowry, and Kessler, that's really good for Utah as well. So Collins has shown himself to be a high adaptable. We'll finish up with this one. It is a sell high on John Collins. He is currently the 48th ranked player based off that massive performance the other day. That's absolutely huge. So if you can toss him in for a trade right now, obviously he is buoyed by Lauri Markkanen, who's been out of the lineup, but he still is really good. Like the second that I saw he was on the bench, and the second that I saw this whole flip for Powski thing, I was like, no, the Collins will be the guy, because at the end of the day, if anyone's going to get traded away from this team, it could even be a John Collins who's going to go somewhere else. So he's going to get some value. He could go back into a starting role somewhere. I think it's good, but obviously it's not like the 45th best player in fantasy basketball good. So we include him and we sell high on him. But for me, yeah, I think it's definitely sell high on Poeltl. We can continue to maintain really good value on Wookie Kessler, and we can continue to get involved with our Discord. Make sure you jump onto that and get all the details to stay connected with us on our Discord page, as well as our Patreon. Patreon is now live. You can get heaps of things on it. Check it out.
Want to take your fantasy sports game to the next level? Insight Fantasy Sports are bringing you exclusive content all year round, such as preseason draft guides, player rankings, waiver wire advice, statistical deep dives, priority podcast questions, and tons more. So what are you waiting for? Get full access to the experts. Go to patreon.com/Insight Fantasy Sports and subscribe to Insight Unlimited today.
Thanks to our sponsor as well, Standard Squeeze. Make sure you use promo code IFS15. Get 15% off all your gear. Malley, I know that you got your shirt and your daughters have taken away your little pink cup, which was very, very cute.
Yeah, they're into it. Yeah, they're chucking all sorts in there. They can get the big ice cubes into that one, so they're thrilled about it. And the little hole on top is perfect for a metal straw. It's just all too good. And the rubber at the bottom, so when they bump them, they don't spill all over the place. So they've ticked all my boxes.
I've got the black, the blue. Well, the black is the old molten one before we were inside, but I got my pink and my blue one. My wife uses the pinky. I steal it. It's that good. Make sure you get onto that one. It's perfect for all your travel cups. Malley, thanks very much. We'll be back with more content, and make sure you like and subscribe to All Things. If you haven't yet, make sure you click the bell and turn on your notifications. Get everything Insight for your NBA action. We'll see you soon, kids. Oh, she's still going. I pushed it.